A couple of NTSB reports out and don't have 4 hours to go through them? Atlas air crash and the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Citation landing on this episode of Taking Off. Hi, I'm Dan Milliken, and it's Osh Week. Well, I promised Christy I wouldn't say that, but brings up a sore topic. But we're not going to be talking about Osh. We're actually going to be talking about two serious topics, the Atlas crash and the Dale Earnhardt Jr. crash today. And thanks for hitting the channel, and please subscribe if you like. We've been growing, and we appreciate you. We just got back from Stearman Field in Kansas from the Aviation Content Creator Awards and got to talk to a bunch of really cool people. And we interviewed some, and you'll be seeing more of those released over the next few months. And then it'll be back to the studio episodes of In the Hangar. Already released from the CCAs are the interviews with Juan Brown from Bronco Lirio and the sit-down with Mike and Mark Patey. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk Junior's crash first. Remember, I'm just presenting the facts and the summary of the NTSB report. I'm not speculating or giving opinions. In Elizabethton, a Citation being flown by two experienced pilots had an aborted go-around, resulting in the plane overshooting the runway, crashing through a fence, and catching fire. Fortunately, everyone got out. And what did the NTSB find? That the Citation touched down right on the numbers, but touched down hard, so they bounced. The pilots hit the thrust reversers in the landing process, and the thrust reverse system designed to protect against inadvertent deployment, which can lead to catastrophic structural failure in flight, prevented the engines from throttling up. So when they hit hard, initiated the thrust reversers, and then decided to go around, they had no power and no time to troubleshoot. So they put it back down and it went hard, losing a main landing gear, going through a fence and catching fire. The takeaway, know your airplane systems, whether it's a Cessna 172 or a Citation jet. And the earlier you decide to go around, the better. Okay, now let's go to the Atlas crash. I've actually shot two different unaired episodes about this crash, but had decided both times to wait for the NTSB report, and now that's out. So here's the accident. A Boeing 767 flying cargo for Atlas with a captain and a first officer and a jump seat non-revenue passenger, he was another pilot about to head into training with United, was on approach to Houston when it nosedived into a marsh, killing all three. And that surveillance footage is chilling. Now, there's been whispers among the pilot community over this ever since the tragedy. But within several months of the accident, the family of the first officer filed suit against Atlas and others for lack of training. Well, the NTSB report is out, and it wasn't lack of training as a probable cause. It was intentionally misleading the FO's application to Atlas, where he left off previous employment where he had failed check rides, not just once, but numerous times. Here's the summary and probable cause of the crash in a nutshell. The FO probably inadvertently pressed the go-around switch while they were still near 6,000 feet, heading towards landing IAH and in the clouds. This caused the airplane to power up, which in your head can be a very similar feeling to a sudden climb, and it's called a cinematographic illusion. So the FO, who was the pilot flying, pushed the stick hard down to counter what he thought was a harsh climb. And when a plane climbs quickly, it will stall as it loses speed. In actuality, the plane wasn't climbing, the speed was fine, the instruments were fine. And the FO's yoke input sent the plane straight down. Now, the captain was busy loading the approach into the plane's computer and was too slow to react. The cockpit recorder clearly has the FO panicking. And this is an opinion, it's on the tape. And by the time they broke out of the clouds, it was too late. And when the plane crashed, the captain had begun to pull out of the dive. So that's what happened. NTSB chimed in on the why it happened and laid the blame on the FO, the slow reaction of the captain, and on the FAA for not implementing the congressionally mandated pilot training records that was supposed to be in place already. And what does the pilot training records have to do with all this? Because the FO had repeatedly failed training at other airlines, and he purposely left off those experiences where he applied to Atlas. At several different airlines, his reports stated that he would panic and just hit buttons. Again, this isn't pilot gossip. It's in the NTSB report. And during the long NTSB hearing, it was clear that had anyone had a complete, accurate picture of this FO's history, he would not have been hired. Right now, the system relies on the accuracy of the applicant. The FAA is supposed to have a record system in place so that the airlines will have the information like this that Atlas lacked when they hired the FO. As far as the inadvertent initiation of the go-around, well, that's an easy recovery. And it's understandable of how that could have happened. By training, the FO keeps his left hand on the controls, and with his wrist being just below the throttle controls, with the go-round switch directly on that, above about where the watch is, it can be tricky, and they hit some turbulence, and the FAA speculates that he hit the go-around at that time. So what we have learned from this to prevent it from happening again, to some degree, the COVID crisis buys the airline some time. And in the last few years, there's been a pilot shortage, so airlines were in full throttle up for hiring. Now they can be more picky. The important thing is that pilots need to be competent. If they lack the skill set needed to fly these big, powerful machines, they need to find a different career. And hopefully the FAA will get in place a system to share the training records so that someone intentionally misleading a potential employer, that won't happen again. So that's it on the Atlas. But before I go, I'd like to mention one other thing regarding a couple of general aviation incidents that have happened around the country. Now, I'm genuinely happy for any successful outcome of an emergency, but if through my own poor decision management, my poor choices or actions or lack of actions, I caused the emergency, please don't congratulate me on a great landing. Great piloting skills are always null and voided by poor piloting choices. Remember this, I'm not the hero saving the baby from the burning apartment if I started the fire. You guys stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.